Now, you say brilliant performance.
Yes.
Can we say the same for some referees in the English Premier League at the weekend?
Sir, I don't think we can.
OK.
It's a VAR debacle. This is the Liverpool-Spurs game. Of course, I enjoyed it very much, but Liverpool fans would not have done quite so much. There was a perfectly good goal by Luis Diaz that was ruled out. It was VAR you think would have picked it up, but it seems that they didn't. And someone that would have picked it up without any doubt now is the former chief of referees, Keith Hackett, who we've got with us as well. Morning, Keith.
Good morning, Paul.
Great to see you. How much of a debacle, how much of a disgrace? Was it awful and this should never happen, right? Not on your watch, anyway.
Well, an absolute disaster. You know, we're sort of seeing these sort of errors on a regular basis. Something is clearly wrong. I mean, we start off with the very basis of the fact that these two officials in the VAR room were out in the Middle East on Thursday officiating a game. I find that absolutely incredible and unacceptable. You know, you've got to be alert and concentrate when you're making these big calls. This one was a soft error. I mean, we could see on TV that the player was in an onside position, and then to see the process rule run out until they've made an absolute mess of it, you suddenly can't believe it's happening in front of you. And, you know, we had this with Lee Mason last year. So the errors are getting repeated. Something has to change.
So what do you think has to change then, Keith? Because I know you were an advocate of VAR, and because you can't argue with the evidence in front of you, it's just, I guess, the way it's being used, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing is I genuinely believe we need a dedicated panel of VAR specialists. Do what Australia do in other countries. That's all they do. Not referee one day, VAR the next. So that, I think, is important. I think when I listened into the show involving Howard Webb telling us what was happening, the conversations were absolutely a complete mess. So just like a pilot, when he's doing a checklist, we need a checklist and a process to cut down the garbage that's being discussed between the VARs on a matey basis. This is a professional environment. We must get these decisions right. And now, you know, I'm sorry, Paul, I know you're a bit of a Spurs fan, but I think Liverpool are going to go and try and get this game replayed.
But, Keith, surely, I mean, I'm not even going to say this as a Spurs fan, but the amount of mistakes that there's been over the past few years, and there's always been, just because there's one mistake and there was a goal that was ruled out that shouldn't have been, you can't then replay the game, because then you'd have to go into history and you'd have hundreds of games replayed, surely.
Well, you know, I don't want that to happen, but I think Liverpool will be looking at it seriously. Remember that they also had Jota sent off when that first yellow card was also incorrect. There wasn't a foul committed. So I think, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, Howard Webb has got to sit down with these guys, get involved a little more, and those that don't come up to the process and standards, he's got to move them on.
And finally, one more for you, because I worry for referees and the way that the referees are treated at grassroots level. This really isn't helping, is it? Because everybody's saying about how bad the refereeing is, and nobody's going to want to go into the profession, are they?
Well, I think that there's no doubt that anything that happens at the top level impacts. The FA, in fairness to them, have brought in things like body cameras, you know, sin bins and various other aspects, but we're still having problems at grassroots level. It's so important that the guys at the elite level do the job properly. And I would suggest being in the Middle East on a Thursday night, a long journey back home on Friday, and then doing a big job on Saturday is one of the roots of the problem that the VAR is giving us at the moment.
Keith, it's really good to speak to you. Hopefully things will be resolved, but after all this time, I'll be very surprised if we get things sorted out. But anyway, it's really good to speak to you. Well, what do you reckon, Eamon? Are you a fan of the VAR?
I reckon that I think the on-field referees, too determined not to look as he ever got anything wrong. I think they need to sometimes call time and say, did we get that right? Let's take more time. All this business that the fans want it all done in 30 seconds. They want the right decision. It doesn't really matter how long it takes. But I thought it would solve the game totally, and everything would be defined after that, but it's strange.
Not the technology, it's the way it's being used, I think.
Right, OK, my friend.